Welcome to the question and answer session with Axis 0096, Casa Black, Robin, and myself from the Captain's Table. From the episode where we talked about 3.24, its initial release issues and so forth. So this is where I'm going to take questions from the chat and we'll answer them to the best of our ability. We've got 22 questions.
Yikes.
Ooh.
All right.
Let's see.
This is gonna be fun.
Yeah. Y'all don't need credit for the subathon. We're gonna go beyond the subathon after this.
Straight into 4.0.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's one of the big questions. Like a lot of these questions are just 4.0. What is 4.0? That kind of thing. I saw a really good one really early on, which was. Now, this is a small one for me, which is when has there ever been an iteration of stable iteration of Star Citizen? I've been playing since 3.15. I have never seen a stable patch drop, just patches, some better than others. 3.17. 3.17.3 specifically.
I agree with that.
It's one of the best patches that they've ever released. It increased. Yeah. It was so stable. They had to. They realized they could increase the player cap to over 100.
Yeah. We went from 50 to 100, chat.
We technically went from 50 to 150, and then they just tiered it back for stability purposes. Like they still had this good performance at 150, but it was like, do we want the performance we got in 3.17.2 with 150 people, or do we want better performance with slightly less? And they said we're going to get better performance with slightly less. So
and then we got 3.18.
Then we got 3.18, yeah, because that was 3.17.2 was the last one before 3.18. It was like it was the most stable and then the most unstable kind of iteration. 3.0.5 was another one.
It's like before the drinking party and then the morning of, midway through the 23rd whiskey bottle.
I can't remember exactly when. I think it was 3.5, but there was a patch also where we had basically never seen a 30K. So like there were people who had just joined the community who were like, okay, why is everyone talking about this 30K? What's this 30K mean? And I saw multiple threads on like forums and Reddit and like, what is 30K? And I was like, what? People, it's been so long since we've had 30Ks that people forgot what they were. Like, so yeah, it's happened before. They've had stable patches. And I would say most patches that are like the X.X patches, the .0 patches are never good, but .X, .1, 2, 3s, they're usually much better. Sometimes they're worse, but yeah. There was another one up there that was more for all of us. Okay, this is a good one. Do you share my feelings that this patch will not function properly until server meshing is in? Clearly, the problem is filling with live server load. No, I do not share that feelings. Axis, do you think that they need server meshing to get this to work?
No.
Any why?
Well, that's next patch.
Okay.
And there's nothing in the current patch that's even remotely related to server meshing. At least in my opinion.
Okay. Casa, do you think they need server meshing to make this patch work?
I don't think it needed to make this work, but I think we're getting really close to them stretching it as far as they can go, adding features without server meshing.
Robin?
I would say no, because I think the cargo hauling and the mission stuff is on an entirely different server and not the game server itself. I think it's another server handling that, and I just think it's basically getting DDoSed because of all the players.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate is, what's the rule of thumb? If I've heard this before, it's like, whenever there's a new release, don't play. Don't play on day one unless you're playing at hour zero. Because if you're playing at hour zero, you'll have the best experience. But if you're playing at hour one past the release, you're going to have the worst experience you've ever had with a video game. Like it's the game is only going to be as bad as it can only get better after its release, because almost all releases are awful. Even games that are beloved today had awful releases. Even sometimes they're fixed pretty quickly. Sometimes took a long time. If I remember correctly, the first release for WoW was a shit show. Obviously, things like No Man's Sky was awful.
Final Fantasy 14.
Final Fantasy 14. The Witcher 3 was a dumpster fire train wreck when it first came out. Now then it became the standard by which people it became the standard by which people made video games, made open world games for a while. Like it became the blueprint that Ubisoft copied for almost all of its open world games. So yeah, it's just that's the issues, and the problem is that those issues are gonna take some time for them to track down. So yeah,
It's not an MMO, but I would say SimCity 2013 was also a horrible release.
but did it
The first-
improve?
It like gameplay wise?
Yeah,
No.
no, but
It's just the first 2 weeks, the EA servers were completely dead and nobody could get into the game because God bless online only gaming for single player games.
yeah. Battlefield 4, another one. I remember playing Battlefield 4's beta and seeing how awful it was, and then when it released, it was awful.
Battlefront 2.
Yeah, Battlefront 2.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. Let's move on to some of these other questions. Because I'm sure there will pop up. These are just kind of questions that weren't in the queue. They're on like YouTube, so I wanted to kind of put them. Like, oh, those are interesting questions. Fastcard asks, CIG is sponsoring a hangar decoration contest on Spectrum. How will with how creative the community can be? Does anyone without an interior decorating degree have a shot of winning third place? Yes.
Yeah.
Because I also think CIG is looking for creativity rather than substance. I think if you can get someone who's can make something that's so good that it's indistinguishable from like a typical living room, then yeah, they're gonna win. But that's not somebody with an interior design degree. That's somebody who just got way too much time on their hands.
Yeah, that too. I would say it also
and
gonna.
Go ahead, Robin.
I also think it's gonna depend on how much RNG is gonna be at play from everything flying around the hangar. Like, there's gonna people dropping out because they just can't get stuff sorted how they want it. Me included.
I think once we get past the first .x patch, when things stabilize a little bit, I think that's when we'll see more people kind of dump into that.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next question. Trouble Magnet, who asks, given the massive bugs around ship summoning, storing, etc., should CIG add the ability to instantly spawn a ship in the unknown state on the pad with its last cargo, etc., once every hour or so as a quality of life workaround? I'm going to start with you, Axis. Do you think that's a good idea?
Have they ever done that before?
No.
I don't think they would.
Do you think it would be a good idea, though?
Not really, because unclaimed means it's not your ship, and that could lead to a whole host of issues. Almost think people would go up to it and try to salvage it and stuff if it's in space or something. With you right there.
Yeah.
Once you get away from the pad, you know?
What do you think, Casa?
I mean, no, I don't think it should be. I mean, not right now, adding anything extra or going through something like that. I mean, let's just wait and see how things are going to play out as we get server meshing in. I think that's where we need to wait and see how things fall from that.
Where the cards fall.
Robin?
I'm gonna say no as well. I feel like we're past the point of slapping band-aids on every issue, and we should just focus on the next best thing and not keep chasing this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, the problem is also time. How much time would that take for CIG to develop something like that, to apply that, or rather than just applying it to fix the problems that caused the problems in the first place?
Yeah.
It just makes more sense to do that. All right, Qpan asks a good question. How is everyone doing today? I was just talking about my wife about this. It's like I'm because I went back to because I'm a teacher, so my date for my day job. It's my second week of school, back to school. Been back in school for the last month or so with training and everything, and I think I was like I feel weird. Like I don't feel bad, I just feel meh right now, and I think 3.24 is that kind of maybe that's why I'm vibing with 3.24 so well, because 3.24 feels like meh right now. Like, so it's like I resonate with how this game is treating me. I just kind of like, yeah, sometimes it's frustrating, but sometimes it's good. That's just kind of how I am right now. I don't know. How are you,
Kind of
Axis?
here, but not here.
Yeah.
Well, I'm like you. I'm about to head back to school myself, possibly going to a junior college to at least start a 2-year degree, hopefully for some form of computer work.
Good.
I got to get back in school, pub. It's been too long.
Yeah, it can take a while, but I went to community college, so I for a bit, so I know it's a good experience. It's good experience. You don't have to pay an arm and a leg. So.
Yeah, I mean, I know people in chat will say, "Oh, but why aren't you going for your bachelor's?" Because I don't have 10 grand.
Yeah, it's super expensive.
10 or 20 grand? No. I'm probably going to be talking to a assistant to get some help with that.
Huh.
Some folks already know about that in chat. I see them in chat. But
yeah,
I'm going to have to balance it around streaming, and I might be able to do the online thing, but I think you still got to get 60 hours a year, right?
I don't know the rules, but yeah, I think that's about right for Texas colleges. So, Casa, how about you? How you doing?
I am doing okay. I'm off till Thursday, so
Nice.
you know, I don't know what I'm going to do at this time, but I was hoping to do some Star Citizen, so we'll see.
Awesome. Robin?
I'm tired.
It's like 1 o'clock in the morning your time, isn't it? Or close to it?
Oh, no. It is 11 p.m. right now.
Okay, that's good.
But last month I purchased my first house, so I've been busy in the house.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome to living out of boxes for the next 6 months.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a lot of work, so.
I bought my first house 4 years ago, and I'm still psychologically scarred from it. So I understand. It feels good, and at the same time, you're like, I never want to do this again. This is
yeah. I'm in the middle of that, because when I bought, I was like, you know what, this doesn't take a lot of work, and now I'm like, you know what, this actually does take a lot of work.
Yeah.
You don't have crazy neighbors.
I live in an apartment, so I don't know how the neighbors are gonna be like yet.
Okay.
Used to be a former bank building, so it's pretty isolated. So
Okay.
I hope there's not going to be a lot of issues.
That sounds like thick walls. Well, you also where you live, they don't make walls out of paper like they do here in the US. So, yeah.
We use bricks, concrete, that kind of stuff.
I've seen door frames from the Netherlands, and I'm like, that's like a bunker. Why do you build your doors like a bunker for doors? Everything's out of brick.
Don't get tornadoes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I'm actually fortunate enough to have like one of the old upstairs offices. I know one of my neighbors lives in the former vault, so anytime he gets a phone call, he needs to walk outside because he has no reception.
Yeah. That's a creative way of turning an old bank like high rise into an apartment. That sounds creative.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. High rise. I mean, in the Netherlands, we don't really have high rise here.
Well, it's what a couple stories high.
Two.
Okay.
With the ground floor and the first floor. That's it.
Okay. All right. Next question comes from Fastcart, who asks, "How big is your hangar deck? Does deck size matter?" Hey, Paul, ask for more questions. Listen, it's not about the size of your deck; it's how you use it. Fastcart, you know the answer to that.
Oh, it was Fastcart, of course.
Yeah. Of course, it's Fastcart. Carlos asks, question, I'm looked out my personal hangar. I can play in a group once I got picked from Lorville since I cannot spawn any ship. Would you agree that they should set a personal hangar reset function similar to character repair? Maybe. I could see if there's a way you could like respawn your hangar might be a good idea, but the character reset should also reset your hangar if I remember correctly.
I don't
But
think it does.
it doesn't.
I think it just resets to, like, how your character looks and all that. I don't think you can set your spawn again, right?
Well, no, not reset your spawn. Like I think maybe he's asking for that spawn. I can play in a group once I got picked up from Lorville. I think since he can't spawn any ship, he's talking about like his hangar was bugged. He couldn't spawn anything, so he had to get picked up from a friend to go somewhere else to be able to spawn something. So he's asking if you should be able to like have like kind of like a reset the hangar thing. Though now that I'm thinking about it, we don't know if resetting the hangar will fix the problem.
Probably not.
Yeah. They need to fix the root cause. Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm honestly more of the opinion that if you spawn a ship from the ASOP terminal that like how we used to, it should give you a public hangar and you can only go to your private hangar from like the elevator itself.
Oh yeah.
I would say that is a great workaround. Like just do it the old-fashioned way.
Have the old-fashioned way as a backup, because it kind of works like that for your temporary hangars. When you spawn them, you can like actually have multiple hangars on a station. You can have like a small hangar, a medium hangar, and a large hangar by like just having different ships. Because if you fly like a small ship into first, it'll give you a small hangar. Then if you come back to that station with a medium ship, it'll give you a different hangar, which is a medium hangar. And if you do the same thing with a large, it'll do the same. So you can actually have multiples of that.
Yeah.
So
I just wish they had multiple elevators in the hangar. I wish we had a vehicle hangar elevator.
Yeah.
Because doing the whole central thing for the vehicles, it kind of feels like a missed opportunity. You know, in that other cubby hole, sorry to get off tangent.
Yeah.
Where you have your cargo elevator here. Over here is this completely empty area where you could put another elevator for your vehicles.
Well, I think
And
that's
I'm sure a lot of people have tons of vehicles.
Well, I think that they want to put the vehicles in the cargo elevator. So
that's what I thought, because that is also what they showed at CitizenCon. Like you could spawn your Nova like from the freight elevator.
Right.
That's kind of what I was expecting with 3.24, but then I got an extra large hangar for my Grey Cat STV. So
Cupan saying that Petey had a piece of ship stuck in his hangar, which made his hangar unusable.
That's why I need a backup one.
Yeah, I could see maybe having one backup because Jen is like, that's not exploitable. It's like, yeah, but maybe having like one backup. You can only have one temporary hangar at a time, so you have to like fly it out or store it and then get a new one. But I think the problem is that this is going to sound weird, but I think that the hangar solution they have now feels more temporary than anything. This doesn't feel like the final way they're going to deal with hangars in the future. This feels like they needed to get this out, and this is their first step at it. This is like tier 0 hangars rather than tier 1. And they may use a lot of the systems they built in, but like there's a lot of weird stuff there. So
there's going to be some refinement, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Next question comes from Alcinor, who asks, do you think we will get the concepted cargo pods for the Starfarers sometime in the future? Like maybe when you get the Starfarer rework. Casa, what do you think?
I mean, possible. We got such a backlog of reworks, and I'm just starting to lose track of it at this point.
Robin, what do you think?
I don't know. I hope so, but looking at like how the Caterpillar still is, I'm gonna say no. I think they're gonna not touch it yet.
Okay. Axis, you think we're gonna see concepted cargo pods?
Hopefully, because it's part of the concept art, and we know how the community reacts when it doesn't make it to the final cut. Regarding the Carrack,
yeah, but like, do the side elevators of the Caterpillar work yet? That was also concepted, and that also doesn't work yet.
Right.
Good point. Or the cargo modularity of the Caterpillar.
Or the reclaimer. Most of the reclaimer doesn't work.
Right. This is true.
Yeah. I don't know. I could see them doing it because I don't think they're going to change the exterior of the Starfarer. they're gonna probably go through and got the interior to make it a little bit make more
Oh,
sense.
please God, do.
Yeah, less confusing.
Like it's not as bad as something like the Crucible, the Reclaimer, which I think is overly large for its role. And if CIG was to look at it today, they'd probably cut that thing in half in terms of its total usage.
Yeah, it feels like an alien isolation map.
Yeah, I mean that's what it was built like, an alien isolation map. It's like the Starfarer was built as a Quake map because that's what it was built like as an FPS map.
Yeah, mirrored.
But the but a lot of it is also built for things like Squadron. Is the reason why they needed those out. And I think if they would go back and rework them, they'd probably get to a decent spot. And they need interior reworks. Like the Starfarer desperately needs an interior rework because I think a lot of the problems with it.
Yeah.
But I don't think, I think the Starfarer is up there with like the Freelancer. The Freelancer exterior is fine. It's aged well. The exterior looks great and it sticks with this bisque theming. It just needs a better interior. That I know that's asking a lot, but all right. Next question comes from QPan. I'll start with this one, Robin. Thoughts and opinions on the Peregrine?
I think it looks cool, but I don't really see it as a racing ship because it's as wide as a school bus. And, when I think of racing, I think of like slim vehicles. So it's not for me, but for those who do racing, I think it's going to be a great addition.
Yeah, I don't race, so I don't know. It was zippy when I flew it, and I think some people like it, but I'm not going to yuck anyone's yum if somebody likes it. It's just one of those like, it's nice, I guess. What do you think, Axis?
It's not for me.
Yeah, that's same. Not for me. Axis?
Me? Okay. Yeah. The Peregrine, it seems like a niche kind of ship. I mean, yeah, it's a racing ship, but some people have pointed out that they could have at least given it minimal defensive weaponry, like very minimal, at least. Like maybe flares or countermeasures to get away. Like if somebody's targeting the race course, does it even have countermeasures at all?
I think it does. But
I mean,
no clue.
I don't know. I don't know if it does or not.
Chat,
does it have
saying,
it? It does. Okay, they say it does.
A scout, and maybe I could see it as one good use, either a racer or a camera ship for Atmo. Honestly, that's my plug. Atmo.
Do we have a camera ship?
We do. We don't talk about the Redeemer. No Redeemer. We don't talk about the Redeemer. The
B-wing. What's its name? Yeah, Reliant. Yeah.
We don't talk about the Mako. I think it's called the Mako. It's the Corey is the cargo version. The Tana is the combat version. The Sen is the exploration version, and the Mako is the news van version. Yeah. It's that. Talk about a rework. That thing is atrocious. It's like, just give us a camera, CIG. None of this schmutz there. Remove it. A HUD, clean HUD.
I mean, you can go to F4 mode. You basically have a camera.
But you don't need a camera. You don't need a ship for that, though. Every ship has a F4.
Yeah.
You're the CIG. Remove F4 from every ship except for that one.
Except for that one.
Yeah.
Make it happen. What do you think, Casa? Peregrine?
I'm not a racer, so for me, I think it was. I mean, in a year of kind of slow ship sales, kind of like big, really good ships that are like really draw people's attention. I think it was, just kind of another kind of a dull choice. But because it's such a small, like you said, such a niche audience it was aimed at. But I mean, I'm glad for racers to have more. Definitely, I'd like to see some endurance racers too come along. But we got so many other things coming that we need. So.
Yep.
All right. So James asks, do you think they'll upgrade the guns in the Polaris, or are they going to stay like they are? They are upgrading the guns in the Polaris. They already said they are.
They are gunning, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, do you think the torpedo operator will be able to fire torpedoes off axis, or are they going to have to coordinate aiming between two people? I'm assuming coordination. They may be able to target off access and fire,
Yeah.
but it may also be a situation where you fire the torpedo, you risk it'll pop out and then immediately turn, so you risk hitting yourself with it if you're not careful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of hope, like, I play a lot of DCS as well. I kind of hope that there's going to be a dedicated missile operator
Mhm.
who can basically slave the torpedo launch to like where he's looking, like basically like an Apache pilot. So if he's looking like 45 degrees to the right, he can target that one, and it basically ejects the missile out of the tube, and it turns with its like small thrusters, and then it launches that way.
Mm-hmm. I think I agree, but I mean, what if it's to the right and you're not coordinating, the missile operation coordinating with the pilot? So he fires it, it pops out, and then the pilot turns to the right, and then as the torpedo activates, it runs straight into the ship as it's firing.
Well, then you're back at the medical bay. You should have coordinated.
Yeah, exactly. I think the question is like, do they have to have coordination? I think they should.
Yeah, especially for a larger vessel like that.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of coordination between multi-crew ships. I think it's just generally the rule. So
yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
All right. I was going to ask Axis Castle. Do you have anything to add to that?
Nope.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think the only thing with the Polaris is you have to keep in mind it's such a large ship and so many things going on with it. Engineering, that might come into play regarding when the Polaris releases, because it is a capital ship. So I don't know. It's kind of one of those hairs that you want to split this way, but we'll see probably closer to SitCon what the verdict is on that.
Mhm.
Will it be IAE or will it be incorporated into 4.0? Who knows?
I feel like they're gonna do the same as with like the C2. Like they're gonna have the engineering panels and the relays. They're just not gonna work on the PU.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until it does.
Till 4.0 at least, or whenever that comes out. We'll see. I have a feeling that it's hard locked behind 4.0, the ship, because not only does it need engineering to work, but I think it also needs server meshing to be functional because of how the crew complement, how big it is. Yeah, because I don't know if they can run multiple Polarises in the game and not ruin a server with that.
I mean, can we run multiple 890s?
It's bigger than
That's a double
890. It's like,
is it?
Yeah.
That is a good question. And then it begs the question, what's going to be the big release then? Could they have worked on another large ship and not said anything about it? We have no idea, guys.
Let's see. I'm looking up right now. I'm pretty sure it's bigger than that. It's 210 meters long. And the Polaris
168.
It's 166, so it's actually smaller than the 890. Oh, it's so right. That's a good point. We do have multiple ships that are larger than the. We at least have one ship that's larger than the Polaris in game. So yeah, it might be able to do it. I was under the impression that it was like one of those ships that because it was like bigger. That it was like, oh yeah, this is one of their first big ships. They want to make sure.
I just think you have a lot more going on with the Polaris. So you
think
got
so?
More guns, yeah.
running around, and guns, and so yeah, versus the 890 where you're just sitting at the bar.
Yeah.
The Idris and the Javelin will definitely have more engineering.
True.
They're huge, and they have multiple stations. That's why it's locked behind Squadron 42, because that'll prepare the back end for the PU for the Idris P, K, M, and the Javelin. Well, I guess you can call it the Javelin chassis because it's modular.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question. When are they going to start? I bet you when they release the Javelin to the PU, they start selling modules for it the same day.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I do wonder though, because I don't think they're going to release the Polaris until the 4.0, also because of just how much functionality is tied in with 4.0. Like just how much of the stuff might be tied into, like Because why would they bother building out a ship to function the way it works now if they were thinking it was going to come out when engineering was out? So that seems like double work. Like build out the basics and then also build out the new engineering stuff. It seems like a little backwards. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what their internal deadline was for 4.0. Like, was
Yeah.
their deadline 4.0 for IAE? I don't know.
That is a good question. I
Yeah.
mean, John Crew probably was using it as a template for the other RSI ships.
Yeah.
He's
Oh, he
gonna
was.
get it to the point of getting it finished enough to where once engineering comes out, it's a minimal work. It's done, finito out. But I wonder if he has another ship in the pocket from the RSI line that he's going to throw out there for IAE. The Galaxy's a no-go. That would have major impact.
No. Polaris would be John Crew did say he would have the Polaris would be out by IAE. He'd said that. He didn't say 4.0 by IAE, but we know that internally they were shooting for Q3 for release of 4.0, and now it's switched
That might
to.
mean there might be a more substantial patch for IAE.
Yeah, I mean that's. It seems like what CIG is doing now is they are shooting for 4.0 to come out at IAE rather than. I think they wanted to get it out right before CitizenCon originally, so they could just get it out. And then 3.24 has been such a clusterfuck. They just don't have enough resources to throw at 3.24 and 4.0 to test at the same time. But we'll see. We could see a little bit more.
Whatever they do, don't release 4.0 just before Christmas, please.
God,
yeah,
no.
please.
No,
No.
That would be nightmare fuel. I know everyone's like, one of the questions at the very end is like, static server meshing before June 2025, and a lot of people are like that. They're saying that, and I'm leaving that for the very end. But I think it's much more nightmarish to have CIG release 4.0 before it's ready, or to drop the nightmare scenario is it's buggy, it doesn't work. They drop it on December 20th, and they go for break, and they just say fuck you, because they've done that before. So
multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry to get off on this tangent.
No, we'll talk about it in a bit, but that's a good point. Like, I think the Polaris is a big sticking point because they're going to release the Polaris at IAE because they made a big stink about it, so they have to, and they want to make money, and that's how they make money. So the question is, how much of are they going to have to go through and just start pulling the interiors out of the Polaris and release basically a functional for 3.24 patch, or functional for 3.4 version, and then another one? That sounds like way too much work. So it's like where they haven't changed, they haven't made any statements about that, so it seems like they're still shooting for 4.0 sometime before then. So
To be fair, they did said we're aiming for IAE, so
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah,
if,
that was
like
yeah.
they can still like backpedal from that.
I think John Crew said it's coming out before IAE, or coming out at IAE, and even Jared was like, "Are you? That sounds pretty certain, John." John was like, "Yes, it's coming out at IAE." Yeah, it was one of the interviews they did with the ship teams, and Jared was like, "Okay, all right."
So we are gonna get it just like the C2 with a non-functional engineering panel and relays.
Possibly, but again, the question is how much of the engineering functionality is baked into the ship. So if it's baked into the ship in terms of how it functions, they may not be able to make it dumb, because including the new HUDs, the new MFDs and new HUDs, which are coming with 4.0. I'm sure it's built in with those. So that sounds like, again, a lot of work to just take all that work you just did, then rip it out and then put in something else, and then cause a lot of bugs and other issues from that. So
please no Polaris tier 0.
Yeah.
All right. Next question comes from Iris, who asks, let's pretend CIG asks you all to flesh out the grand vision for one gameplay loop. Which one is it, and what would you ask them for? Casa.
Wow, first. I really want to see salvaging come through with, the Maelstrom stuff. That's, one thing it's kind of a bounty hunting version 2 is another one, like, getting in there, but yeah, salvaging. I really want to see the full how it's supposed to be.
Okay. I'll jump in here and just say exploration.
Oh, yeah.
Not because I think exploration is not because I'm like a big exploration guy, but I'd love for them to flesh it out because I am of the opinion that you can't make exploration fun. Not in the way that people think exploration is.
Mhm.
People think exploration is making love to beautiful alien women and exploring strange new worlds and going off to like unknown parts of the universe and like finding a jump point, and they want the like Star Trek experience without remembering that most of Star Trek in terms of like the stories starts with them mapping a nebula for like 6 months. Like that's what they do. And it's just, you're just seeing little highlights in their life. And for a game like Star Citizen to have that sort of basis, you're going to have more mundane activities that can be repeatable, that can be a loop, that can have reputation attached to it. And I think it's just going to be scanning and mapping. But I also think that people will really enjoy scanning and mapping, because if you have to go to like, I don't know, a planet and map, you might have a little tool, like a scanning tool, like a surveyor's tools that you have to walk up to this mountain and plant it down and then like level it out and then walk to the other mountain, level it out, or like fly between different places. So you have this nice little actions.
I want some sort of tricorder scanner like you, Pub. I want tricorder scanners, not just helmet, visor, bulk crap. Come on.
Like stuff. But I like the idea of like physically going out and observing the worlds.
More than Starfield.
Yes. Because
more than Starfield, yeah.
Because I think that is a fun, it would just sort of take in the environment, like to hiking a hill of a desolate moon to on top of a crater to like to set down some equipment, and then getting onto your ship and flying to another location and just taking in the vistas. Like, yeah, you're just putting down scanners and doing it, but you might sit there for a moment and be like, man, this place is beautiful, or something like that. I think that's what people are really looking for with exploration, is just seeing interesting places and be like, neat. A little bit of digital walking simulator stuff. So,
right.
But yeah, that's what I think people will actually want in there. So I think that would be the grand vision is something that's more about taking in the scenery than being Captain Kirk or Riker, every week. So, Axis, what do you think?
Same thing, and well, I agree with yours, but for salvage or base building, I want a fairly stout system, but at the same time, I want to be able to, search out resources both in my local area, at markets, like they talked about at SitCon. I want to be able to make my home, or my encampment or my base, personalize it. One of the things we don't have in the current hangars stuff or furniture, we don't have shelves where we can place things like our IAE trophies or things like that, things to display. Or my Xenothreat armor, we don't have dummies to display it. Forgive me for having Skyrim thoughts. For all the lagginess Skyrim gets, it had an excellent home building or base building system. And when you got your homestead set up, oh my God. It was
Robin?
one of the best things. Sorry.
Very good. Robin, what do you think? What is one thing you'd like to see fleshed out? Like if you could.
Cargo hauling and security contracts for me. Mostly because my organization is based around that. But I also kind of want like more interaction between players, like needing others more. Because right now you could do most of the things on your own. Like I want a reason for other organizations to reach out. Like, hey, we found a nice like mining claim. We're going there with moles or prospectors, but we also know that there's pirates in the area. We need some backup just in case.
Okay.
Maybe not in the form of like a kraken, like in the advertisement, but smaller fighters like hiding around asteroids when stealth actually works. That is.
Yeah. I agree. I come from the sort of emergent gameplay world of like DayZ and survival games and such. And
same.
And that sort of experience is it left such a mark on me when it first started happening that I became like, it's not that it's like I love it forever. It's just more like I understand the experience of it and how it can impact people. Like I I don't remember many gaming experiences super vividly, but I can remember my first player kill in DayZ and how like not necessarily like nervous I was, but how I felt and how I felt before, during, and after. And it was like it's one of those not necessarily yeah, it's a thrill. It's one of those thrills. It's like it took so much time and effort to get to this point, and I was able to do this because I was smart and tactical, and I got my leg up on another player, and they weren't necessarily better equipped for me. Or I was better than them or anything like that. It was just I happened to get a drop on them when they weren't paying attention, and it got them. And that's sort of
sure it wasn't someone at the coast, like a Bambi.
No, it was somebody who was looking over Cherno. They were on the hill.
Sniper, yeah.
They were on the hill overlooking Cherno with a sniper, and I was coming up the hill behind them, and they didn't hear me, so I came up behind them with a shotgun. And by the time they got there, it was they were just done. It was the auto shotgun, so it was a little bit of a spray and pray, just walking up. But I was just happening to go in that region, and my friends were going into to loot, and I saw the dude there, and I was like, oh, perfect. Yeah, it was one of those just I remember it. And that sort of thing has made me go, I understand emergent gameplay because of that. And I want CIG to embrace it. And it's kind of frustrating when CIG kind of goes, they seem to be pulling back from that a little bit. It's like, oh yeah, here's these cool NPCs, which is like, that's neat. Can we use them in a way that gets players together?
No. Like DayZ and Escape from Tarkov are two of my most played games. I've been playing DayZ before it was even a game, like it was just a mod for Arma 2.
Same, yeah.
And the stuff you just run into is just amazing. Like you had those servers with like special missions, and you could just like either go in and run into random people, either it would turn into a shootout or you would turn into best friends.
Yeah. And that was the cool part.
It's amazing. Yeah.
And you might start off as a shootout, and then you might start talking, and then you stop shooting.
Yeah. Or what I had is that both parties ran out of ammo, so they had to talk to each other.
Yeah.
Like, what are we gonna do? Like, none of us have ammo.
And that's the good sort of like direction I think that CIG could go for, especially in places like Pyro. But we'll see how it goes. But I'd love for them to kind of, once they got the basics in, to kind of really dial that in. So
yeah,
you also need like more opportunities to run into people.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All right, next patch because Arkin asks, with the cargo patch and the Pyro coming in the future, do you think we'll start seeing actual smuggling gameplay come to fruition? As a smuggler, yes and no. I think 4.0 is going to bring us 3.24 took away smuggling, except for the jump town stuff. But I think 4.0 will bring it back, but with a caveat. I don't know if you're going to be able to transport illegal cargo from Pyro to Stanton
until we get the smaller jump points.
Yeah. So
maybe, yeah.
If you can and you don't get scanned on the way from Pyro to Stanton, or you have a way to avoid getting scanned or whatever, then yeah, you could still do. We'll see it come back, but I don't think we'll see full smuggling until they get scanning gameplay in, because that also includes like masking your signatures and figuring out how to look at signatures. Like they've talked about scanning being in the works recently in the last couple of monthly reports. Mm-hmm. So they're definitely actively working on it. I expect to hear about it at CitizenCon. It's that stuff. So
I'd hope so. Yeah.
What do you think, Robin? Do you think we're going to get smuggling gameplay coming in with 4.0?
Probably not. I mean, I want to, but I think you're going to need the new scanning stuff first. And also, if not, at least get the scanning we have now working again, so we can actually see cargo on ships, because everyone's smuggling right now. Yeah. I don't think it's going to be at 4.0. Maybe they're going to talk about it at CitizenCon, but I don't think they're going to add it yet. Like, not proper smuggling.
Casa, what do you think?
Same. I don't think it's going to be there. Not yet. They just still need a couple more tools first.
Yep.
Nice. Axis?
I think I'm in agreement with both of them. We need a couple more tools and probably items. They talked about secure containers a while back that included shielded ones and locked containers.
Yeah.
That might come into play later. So,
Or life forms.
Yeah.
Smuggling illegal life forms.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see it being in this immediate patch.
Yeah. Apparently, Architect is saying the team is investigating cargo missions or hauling missions. Would be nice to Architect if you could give us a little bit more context of that and like where you got that, because that would be good if they were able to do that. Oh, was it a
Yeah, I
deleted
hope so.
tweet? Okay. Yeah. All right. Kintex asks me, Paul, on the cargo missions you've done, do you think the payout is good or should it be better? I think it's fine. I don't think it's good, but I think we're going to all have to learn to live with less money in the universe. CIG is going to go through a rapid process of de-inflation over the next.
Please.
So, like, I think they've already started this where ships have gone up in price and other ships have gone down, but and commodities have changed in prices. As we get through that, they're going to balance out the economy, but I think there's going to be a lot of deflation over the course of the next couple of patches. Because they want to set a good like base rate. That's why I think that 4.0 is going to have a complete wipe, like ground up wipe. Because
quantum economy too.
I think that's the next. I think those are the two ones that we're going to see. It's the Star Sim thing that they want to do is going to be the next big one after the 4.0. But I think 4.0 is going to require that base level, back to basics. Everyone just starting at the start. So.
Except if you bought a UEC on the store, but I don't know anyone who did.
Okay, so this was posted on the 31st, fairly recently, at 21:20 UTC. They posted CIG posted. We're currently investigating issues associated with cargo hauling missions. And that at 21:20 they said initial notice team is investigating. So they're in the process of looking at what's going on with cargo hauling.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're actually building cargo empires now.
Yes, in the patch. It's just a delayed start, right?
I went back like earlier today and rewatched the trailer after playing 3.24. I watched the trailer for the patch again, and it just felt like I was being slapped with a wet fish.
Yeah.
I want whatever they're playing.
Does anyone know if you can still go ahead?
It's like 3.18 playable now all over again.
Yeah,
playable, yeah.
And that terrible music in the background.
I love that music. I want the full track. I want that full track because it's Jared.
No,
It's Jared, yeah, right?
Yeah, it was Jared singing.
318 trailer.
Oh, the 318 trailer. I thought you were talking 324.
I thought you meant Jared singing.
All right. But yeah, I will say, because I have had a chance to play the play. I'll say it's good payout. The scale is different. So you get up to 20,000 UEC per run at a rookie rank, and it doesn't take you that long to do so. At a junior rank, you're looking at 20 to 40, and at the next level up, which is like member, it's like 40 to 50. So like master level, which is the highest reputation rank, your master level missions, you're getting like 100 plus thousand per run.
Did they change pricing from the PTU? Because I remember I was only like not rookie, the one after that, and I got for my C2 run, I got like 78,000.
I think they
and
changed
it was like
a
for
little bit of it.
110 SCU, I think.
Yeah, it was what they've done is they said like there's a couple of 50,000s in junior rank, but not anything beyond that. So. I'm gonna talk about that at the end there, Jonathan, because that's a good one to do as well. We'll talk about 4.0 and then that one. All right. Companion to my previous question, this is from Iris. CIG then asks you, what gameplay loop do you want to rework from first principles or nix entirely? What one is it, and how would you ask them to rework it? If you're nixing it entirely, why? Why would you add it in this place? What negative value do you think it would bring? Rework it. I'll start this one off, because if I was to rework one feature from Star Citizen right now, it would probably be salvage. Because I think the feature they have right now is fine for what they're doing, but I also feel like what they're doing is going to have to be replaced. I feel like this is too simple, and they're still trying to figure stuff out. Obviously, there's other issues, but I feel like they could have gone a little bit more granular. I'm not saying they should have gone hard space shipbreaker, but I am saying that there should be more than just the simple RMC recycled material. And I think there should have been more steps in between. But I think it's not bad. It's just, I don't think it quite meets what I would expect a salvage to be. Like, salvage shouldn't give you just goo. It should give you goo that's made up of 20% titanium, 30% like it should look like mining when it actually you actually do it. And so it should still require the same processes as mining to be able to be functional.
I agree.
That's that sort of mentality rather than just, oh, here's goo. You use goo to fix kind of thing. But
instead of just one material product, it should be several.
Yes.
It'd be nice, like if you like scrape a hole, you would also get like copper from wiring that you pull in, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like more granular like that is what I'm saying. It's like you should be getting the material makeup of your ship, even if it's just stand-ins initially before you have all of them. You just say, oh yeah, it's this wing is this percent, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So. What do you think, Axis? What if you were to rework one or just completely remove one gameplay loop from Star Citizen? What would it be?
Well, I'm going to go in a similar vein and say mining. Mining right now could be further developed because, number one, we don't even have half the periodic table of elements on the list. Well, for building things. Uranium for power. They're talking for base building, specifically power plants. What do you put in a power plant? Things like uranium, thorium, things that aren't even in mining as mining nodes. Silver, something other than gold to sell. Platinum, things that are used not just by base building, but maybe medicinal, like mercury or gallium. Things that would still be used, maybe not to the extent that they are in the present world, but, different minerals that are definitely not in the current game. I think they've said they're going to add more eventually, but not currently. And I think it may be, again, tied to base building. They're going to add more node minerals because they're going to have to, But if I were to really start with it, there would be a little bit of, God, what is that game? Satisfactory, where you make not only refine, but you make a product to sell to a manufacturer.
As like part of it.
Iron plating or titanium plating or glass or silicon wafers or simple circuitry.
So you're not just producing iron, you're producing a specific iron thing that you can then sell.
Iron ingot or steel ingot or what's something else.
Waste like coke, which is a kind of a waste product of coal. So
even that would have sell value.
Yeah.
Everything in refining has a value because slag can, for those of you who work in metallurgy like that, slag contains everything from gold to silver to, potassium, all kinds of weird non-essential elements when you make steel. And when you separate it, they all get separated into different vats and, refined. That's what happens at a foundry. We have refineries, but we don't have foundries in game where you make a product.
I think CIG is trying to conflate the two, but for right now they're kind of the same. But and Trouble Magnet, he knows that you don't mine silicon wafers. He's saying you turning silicon into silicon wafers of some kind or that kind of stuff. But
sorry about that.
Yeah, you're good.
It's kind of been a thing since I played Satisfactory. I saw that, and it's so simple.
Yeah.
Even at Satisfactory's level, that even CIG could input it. Maybe not to the intricacy, but circuitry, I could see people like Hurston Dynamics
Yeah.
or Microtech buying.
Mhm.
Capacitors.
Yeah, capacitors. Yeah.
Casa,
I mean,
what's one feature you would nix or rework in Star Citizen?
There's some of the missions like search or investigation that to me are just, I think especially as a new player, you come in and you see those and you're like, oh, those seem interesting. You do them once or twice and you're like, those weren't interesting at all. So I would like to see, I don't know even what you would do, but I would like to see more reasons to do those kind of missions, more things you're looking for to investigate, reasons to go into caves a lot more, or just on the planets in general.
Robin?
Bounty hunting.
Bounty hunting? How would you?
I want something more than just shoot this person on sight. Like actually bring someone in. I know it's gonna
You
be
want-
bounty hunting fee too, but
you want apprehension, cuff them, put them in cold storage,
Yeah.
transfer them to lockups. They were going to implement that.
That's V2, yeah.
Earlier this year, Paul.
I don't
last
know.
year.
They mentioned it last year, and then at CitizenCon they completely dropped talking about it.
Yeah, they did.
Yep. It's
So-
I mean you have apprehension right now, but for those Tarkov players, like apprehension right now is just giving someone head eyes and calling it a day.
Yeah, I think there's too many tools that are reliant on server meshing for that to come into play because they have the NPC scheduler and things like that that have not been worked on pretty much since the end of last year. So I think those are things that are key to making bounty hunting work.
They've also shown us like non-lethal weapons like stun guns and that kind of stuff. Like it's
Yep.
still not here.
Very recently too.
Stun gun was like last year, maybe 2 years already.
Yeah, it's been a
Month
while.
ago.
They showed off the like cuffs at CitizenCon, so I think they had the stun guns by then as
There
well.
was an ISC about a month ago.
The Volt
They
weapons.
showed off all those weapons, and
Yeah.
if you pause it, you would see the preacher
The
handgun.
handgun, yeah, the preacher's taser. Yeah,
And
the
I
stunner.
was like, that came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So that tells me their team's still working on it. So
I imagine it's squadron assets they haven't fully brought over to Star Citizen yet. So
Yeah.
definitely.
Maybe, yeah.
I'll answer this one quick real question. Akuma Tenshikuro says, if I want to watch one of your long form videos after a broadcast like Office Hours Captain's Table, I only see them if the YouTube's algorithm suggests it, but they don't seem to surface when I look them up. It's bumming me out. Like I listen to the ones I can't catch live. How do I look for them after the fact? Just look for my channel, and then go to my my playlists. They all have playlists. So. So yeah, that's a really simple one to answer because we're kind of coming down. We just ended the subathon, so we still got 12 questions, and I want to try to do my best to go through some of them. I think we already kind of covered this. What feature were you looking forward to, and what feature has not been talked about in the game you want? I think we just answered both those questions in a long form there.
Yeah.
Shorter question, but should Paul release his lore capsule and Captain's Tables videos on audio only podcast format? Would you listen to them? I think some people might. I do actually release Captain's Table in audio for podcast. It's available on Spotify.
Yeah.
So you can definitely do that. I would do more lore stuff in the audio format, though I need to have better audio quality. And though I might look into that. And the capsules, I don't know if I want to do the capsules and audio. I played with the idea, but I don't know if anybody will listen to them. The problem is I do the Captain's Table on podcast, and like right now there are more people watching this on YouTube itself, and I've watched this on YouTube itself, that probably will listen to this podcast in its entirety over the next, in its entire life. And there'll probably be like double or triple the numbers. So it's really hard for me I want to do it to help people out, but it's not necessarily something that's like, I want to put in all of the work to move everything in audio over to those things, because it's just a lot of bureaucracy. There's a couple people have asked some questions about Hornets. Okay, so like Kuma Tensei Shikuro says, I know this is apropos of nothing, but as a long-time Hornet owner and lover, I've been begging CIG to give up the original Hornet some love, decent skins at least, if not bringing it up to the Gladius standard for Squadron 42. Then they go Mark II time, Mark I no longer available. I'm dejected. Will they let the Mark I rot, or will they give some decent treatment eventually? Is there going to be any practical reason to have a Mark I over in Mark II other than the look value? And then Iris asked something similar. CIG has already released, has already shown that they think the ship is more trouble to rework than redeem. They'll just release a newer, sexier Mark II model. Was this a mistake? What other ships need a Mark II? Now, obviously, the lore around it is spotty and contradictory at best. CIG can't make all of Paul's ships redeemers, and they got to dunk on him somewhere. So the question is, like, Mark II. Do you think the Hornet Mark I is going to get any love, or is CIG going to continue this Mark II trend, like making a ship that is version 2, because it seems like they're just kind of dumping the old ones, or do you think they're dumping the old ones? Axis, what do you think?
Okay, well, we already know that on the progress tracker, they have announced. I don't know if anyone in chat pays attention, but they've already announced the Super Hornet Mark II, the Hornet Tracker Mark II, and the Ghost Mark II. So they are kind of adding more of the Mark IIs, but I seem to recall a transmission, about the time they were retiring them, that they would keep updating the back end for the Mark I's and keep it up for stuff. Keep it current, for some, I don't know what language they were using, but I could see people keeping it as a museum piece, even though, okay, hey, calling it ugly is one thing, but yeah, people will keep it as a museum piece. I'll put it this way. The guy that Silas Kerner owns a lot of vintage ships. So think of yourself as trying to build a collection to rival his. We already have a Mark II Zeus. So what else could get a Mark II? The Freelancer. It's an old ship.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to say it. The Gladius. Maybe Aegis is tired of living in Anvil's shadow and releases a Gladius Mark II. As unlikely as it is, because a lot of people like the Gladius. I'm gonna go throw full caution to the wind.
All right. What do you think, Casa? Do you think they're going to keep updating the Mark I, or do you think they're going to keep doing Mark II versions?
I hope they don't keep doing Mark II versions, but a part of me wonders too, is it some of the really old ships that were like their pipelines were just so much different that now they find that it's just easier to do them. That could be the reason why it's easier to do Mark IIs for some of those older ones. I don't know. I'm not a fan of the Mark II going forward with just any ship, but I mean, who knows what they're going to do at this point? Like, if they sold well or they do sell well, then they may find more reasons to do more, especially if it's easier to just to upgrade one, with some fancier looks and using the newer pipelines, just to make more money. I mean, it could be something they go with going forward. I don't know.
Rob, sorry, got distracted by chat. Robin, same thing. Do you think they're going to do Mark I, do the Mark I justice, and do you think we'll see more Mark IIs?
I'm going to be honest. I think I truly hope they're gonna update the Mark I, but something tells me that with the Mark II stuff, they opened a can of worms, and the Mark I is just going to be a nice hangar decoration, and it's not going to get a lot of work anymore. I think they opened a can of worms with the Mark II stuff. I know Axis talked about the Zeus Mark II, but this Mark I never got into the game, so is it really a Mark II? I really hope they don't continue with the Mark II stuff, but I think we've opened a can of worms that they're going to keep doing this unless the community pushes back.
Yeah, I'm afraid they'll do a Mark II. In some cases, I think they need to do a Mark II, like the Freelancer or even the Gladius, or the Gladiator. I think the Gladiator beats the Starfarer and that kind of stuff. But I think in general, yeah, in general, it's I don't know how to put this. In general, I think it's a bad move because it sets a bad trend where CIG is doing basically being rewarded for abandoning ships that they've already sold, which is it's a slippery slope. I didn't like it when they did it in the first place. I didn't even like them giving out the F8, that kind of stuff. Because if they start just abandoning ships, it's like, why buy a ship? You're setting the example of like, why should I buy your next ship when I know what happens if it becomes too hard to update and you just discard it in 6 months? It's not like they'll actually do that, because it's clear like the reason why they wanted to do the Mark II was because they wanted to give it an update from the Mark I, and they made a cool lore bit about it. They wanted to have it be kind of a squadron thing, and there was definitely some like squadron reasons behind the Mark II for Hornet, but at the same time, it always felt very cash grabby, and I don't think it's a good idea.
I would say keep the Mark II in Squadron 42. Like, don't even bring it to Star Citizen.
Or
keep it for in there.
Or make it in Star Citizen where you have to get it like by stealing it. Yep. Something like that.
Or completing like reputation lock.
Yeah. I think more people, I want less Mark IIs and more rep ships. Less ships that I purchase with money and more ships I get through playing the game. I want to be rewarded for playing the game.
Point out what you were saying about the Zeus, Robin. It is a Mark II, so's the Redeemer, and also the Perseus is technically a Mark II that's coming out.
Yeah.
But you're right. The reason they work is the original version is no longer in service at all.
Yeah. And no one purchase it.
Yeah. There's no way to get them.
I really want more event vehicles that are not like the rewards are not locked behind a paid ship anyway, just like the F7A Mark II. Like when I saw that, I was really excited for it, but then I saw that you have to fork out money for it, and I was not excited anymore. Like, I want a ship that is like tied to a reward that you don't have to fork money for.
Yeah. And it don't do the thing where it makes you feel like you're punished for backing early.
Yeah.
Early backers shouldn't feel punished. If anything, what CIG should have done was given everyone who had a Mark I a Mark II for free.
Yep.
And then if they wanted to try to apply it, they could. And then everyone else would get a Mark II. You'd have to buy a Mark II from then on. That's a little different, but like.
But isn't CIG like behind their pledges this year compared to other years? So that's kind of like one thing they did to gain more pledges.
Was the Mark II this year? I thought it was last year. I know it was this year, wasn't it? It was during the threat. Yeah. But they're not behind. Yeah, as people are saying, that they're not behind. They were in the beginning of the year, and then Invictus happened, and then they weren't. But I think at the time the Mark II thing was happening, they were behind. They were slightly behind, but not massively behind. But since the Mark II came out, the ironic thing is it was the Ironclad. The Ironclad got them up because the CIG is like, this is their idea. And everyone's like, it's a Drake ship. It's good. We all like this idea. Can we please get the space barge, please? And, then we're not going to see it for another 4 years. Yeah. So
2 years minimum. Well,
all right. I think it was a good discussion. We had a lot of like those two were pretty long. I want to get those through. We've got 8 more questions. Risto asks, does showing a new unfinished system at CitizenCon calm the hornet's nest or release an angry hive of how long until we get this new system? If you're talking about like Risto, if you're asking Risto about like a new planetary system,
like Nyx,
I think if you show off Nyx, as long as Pyro is in people's hands in some way, shape, or form, is not going to piss people off. I think if you start up there and talking about other systems and you haven't even released like wave 1 PTU of 4.0, then people are just going to laugh at you. Like,
yeah.
So, I don't want another sandworm thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. People say it's sandworm. You can't even get one system. You still only have one system out. Now you're talking about system 2, when's this going to come out? 7 years from now? Like it's a completely different thing if 4.0 is out in some way, even if it's a dumpster fire, if it's out some way, than if it was, and then you're talking about Nyx, or future systems, than it is if you have the system, if you don't have it out, you know.
Yeah, it's more like if you put Pyro out, at least you prove that you can put out a second system.
Yeah.
Like, why talk about a third one when the second one still isn't here after
Yeah.
X amount of years?
And I think that's the key is like, I think CIG often thinks about things too technically. They come in from the perspective of what they are, engineers. And they see it in a pattern, and they just like, well, so you gotta understand this is how, you know, we develop things, this is how things work. And it's like, that's great. But the end user, the consumer, doesn't see that. They don't care. The typical person doesn't play the PTU, so they don't know what the game is like. So when they go into play the live version, they go, why is this broken? Why didn't you fix this? Did you not test this? What did you do? What's going on? Why is this happening? And I know this because I'm a typical consumer for most of other games. I just find out they exist, you know, a week before they launch and go, neat. And then if it's completely bugged, I'm like, this is awful, and then move on or something like that. A refund, you know? And I think that's why most people view Star Citizen. People like us, or the people like you watching, dear viewer, are probably a lot more into Star Citizen than 90% of the people who own the game or even play the game. So, and I think CIG, especially if they're going to release a AAA title like Squadron 42 in the near future, they need to start thinking about it in terms of optics and how do you spin a narrative of your own company or what you're doing that will resonate with people rather than, you know, well, this is what we're doing, you know.
Also, the progress tracker delay kind of fed into some hysteria this year.
Oh yeah. Well,
Lack of transparency.
I will say this, and I always get in trouble for this, but I don't care. But there's always going to be a contingent of people in the Star Citizen community who will not be happy about the game. They're chronically unhappy. They are always looking for on the downside of life. They don't care about progress. No matter how much CIG improves, they will always find a reason to be mad at CIG because it's made it part of their identity. So you're not
kind of any game.
Yeah, it's any game. It's not just a Star Citizen thing, but Star Citizen has a very pernicious like group comparative to like I would say to most games in my experience at least. But you can't try to please those people because you never will. So you have to do something, but the people they should be targeting are the average players, not the person who you know,
screams on Reddit
or YouTube comments or stuff like that. Yeah, you're not going to get you're not going to get doomers to ever think that the Star Citizen is ever going to do anything but like scam its fans or is about to fall or whatever. Like they're going to always have their own world, and so you can't really deal with those people by talking with them. You have to just sort of, you know, keep going, but see who you're actually supposed to be talking to. And unfortunately, the progress tracker, I watch it, but how many people actually read the progress tracker? I think it's like a minority of a minority. It's like you and me and a handful of other people. Like it's very, very niche in terms of information. So,
somebody wrote, "What is reading?"
What is reading? Yeah. Identity aside, it never helps when we see make the same mistakes repeatedly. True, but at the same time, there's like I said, like it's more about how does CIG talk to people, not talk to like the hardcore fans. How do you talk to your average fan, not to me, not to Access, not to Robin, not to Casa? How do you talk to the average Joe Schmo who found out about Star Citizen 2 weeks ago and is hearing nothing but people screaming in on the internet? How do you talk with them to convince them that this is not a scam or the best game ever, or what? How do you convince them that they should try your game? And I think CIG still fails at that. Fails at it pretty heavily.
Another 40-minute Tony Z video.
Yeah, totally.
That should be interesting.
Ironically, the answer is marketing. Yeah, but I also think that their marketing, that's a different topic. I think their marketing is bad, actually, even though people think they're good. They're actually, and I don't think they're bad because like, oh, they stricken scam us into playing the game. It just, no, they just don't. They're just not.
Does anyone remember the like what is Star Citizen marketing video?
Oh yeah,
like Life of Star Citizen. What was it called again?
It was what
that
is
was a great one.
It was what is like the Dream video, something like that.
I think it was just a bunch of like ship commercials, like
Yeah.
mixed together.
Yeah. But yeah. All right. Next question comes from QPAN, who asks, I've noticed some players having issues with debris and hangar causing issues with the hangars becoming unusable. Seeing how CIG is should players have a way to reset the hangar status? Oh, we already talked about that earlier.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier. I don't think it necessarily needs to reset the hangar status. I think CIG needs to figure out why the debris is causing that sort of thing to happen. Or if players can remove debris with like tractor beams or something like that. That just seems like an issue. Yeah. Next question comes from Citizen Joel, who asks, is there a tech hurdle to drones, or is there just waiting for developers to prioritize them? I don't think there's a tech hurdle. They have remote cameras already.
Yeah.
I think it's just prioritization of, it's just not as priority. The people who
I think it depends. Like, are they AI driven? Like, I think the servers already have enough stress as it is with AI. I don't think we should add more on top of that until at least server meshing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a matter of that, and also I think latency, like, because you have to do like remote. How much do you have to have latency for driving something that's farther away from somebody? I think it's a matter of HUD development, and there's questions that need to be asked, but there needs to be like a drone might also include a probe. Does CIG want to have people launch probes? And if they have the ability to launch probes, do they control them? And if they're controlling them, like, that means you need scanning technology to work for them. Like, there's a lot of other things. It's one of those, I think it's on the back burner until the basic gameplay loops are in before you can get to that scanning issue. So, all right. Cable 1965 asks, when will Star Citizen get some lore? Brother. Hold on. I have to do this the right way.
Brother, are you serious right now? Are you absolutely serious? Do you know where you are? Do you know who I am?
In game. Okay, you should have said in game. I think 4.0 is the big first step. But I think the thing that really people want when it comes to lore, in that lore, but like what they want when I say lore is they want story. They want a world to be built around them. CIG is really good at world building on paper. They're really good at world building atmospherically. They're really good at world building like mechanically with like different styles and different like clothing. They've got the aesthetics of world building, and they've got the basic fundamentals of it, but they don't have the actual like execution of world building. And I think that comes from, they need voiced mission givers.
Yeah,
like, that's what it is.
More quest lines, like reputation factions. Like if you build reputation with one, you lose them with another. Like you go to their area, you get like fired upon on site. For example, if you have too much like bad rep. I think that kind of stuff would be. I think 4.0 really is like the start of that.
Yeah.
I go back to those investigation missions too.
Yes.
You know.
Go ahead, Axis.
We have cities, okay? Large landing zones. Where are the libraries?
Where's the stuff you would see people living in these cities? Like, there's no police stations.
I mean, where are like libraries, universities, things that research stuff, like labs, stuff like that.
Yeah. Or
things that you can interact with. Museums. There's something.
Where are the grocery stores?
Yeah, where's the grocery stores?
There will be museum, like Hornet Mark 1 owners.
Yeah.
They'll have museums.
Hurston, for example. I could totally see the Hurstons having a history of the Hurston family museum somewhere in Lorville.
They kind of have.
They have like
they have a plaque.
The medical thing, right?
Yeah, and they also have a plaque right by the giant golden statue of their founder. But like, for instance, what I mean is that in a typical game, when you think about a game you've played that you remember, like, that has like a narrative to it, you almost certainly remember moments of a story or characters in that story.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I could tell you a basic gist of Fallout 3. But if I said Fallout 3 and I started saying, Gary,
Oh god.
Gary, you know
Oh,
what I'm
God.
talking about. Like, that mission is in your brain because it has good storytelling and because it's got an interesting character. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I know next to nothing about Destiny, but I can tell you who Cade 6 is because it's Nathan Fillion. Like, I know that character. Like, you build a universe by having people connect to it, and the best way of connecting to it is by having somebody who they could either see in their shoes or see in their real life. And they had that. They actually honestly, earnestly began right off the bat strong as hell with Tessa Bannister. Like, people glommed onto her like crazy, and you didn't even see her. She was a voice in 2.0, a voice. Wasn't even a like you didn't see her. She just had some quirky personalities with some voice, with a voice. If CIG went back to doing that with some of the characters, you would have so much more interest in the universe around it. So, yeah.
I mean, how many people played Command and Conquer Red Alert 3, but know the whole like Tim Curry like escaping to the one place that has been corrupted by space thing?
By capitalism, space, yes.
Christ.
Yeah, like, but yeah, that's the thing about like a lot of those things. It's like you need to have some characters, and that is what builds that. That's what makes people feel connected to a universe. Not cool beams and ships and fights. Those are nice, but those are means that those are things you want people to do. But in order for people to get back on a game to do that, you need to have them a reason to do that, other than just fun. You know, I don't know.
Also, your lore hunting group.
Yeah.
They need places to go to hunt for lore or relics.
Yeah.
Like ancient ruins or
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, in our real world,
I know
you
they
have
could.
things like Stonehenge.
Yeah, I know they want to do that. That's clear. Like, because I could, if I said right now there are alien ruins somewhere in Stanton, there's not, by the way. Don't take that as there is. If I said that, people would immediately go to find them because that sounds cool.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Wasn't there like a javelin wreckage on Daymar?
there is still a javelin wreckage on Daymar.
Yeah, it's still there.
People don't know it, but you can go find the wreckage of a crashed javelin with a full backstory. Yep. The problem is that javelin has a backstory only on the website. There is nowhere you can learn about the Flysa.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the real problem, especially when new players come in the game. They have no idea their story and lore and everything unless they watch your videos or something, because you don't see it in game.
Yeah. So, all right. Next question. Speaking of this, Indo Fro asks, what is the most fun emergent gameplay in Star Citizen? Robin, what do you think?
Emergent gameplay or emergent?
Emergent.
I think the events. I think that's where a lot of people like come together out of nowhere. Like I started doing the overdrive stuff with my organization, but quickly other people started tagging along. We had like a big group going, doing the whole thing. I think that is what is going to have the most emergent gameplay.
Casa?
I like org events, although I don't do enough with the org I'm a part of. But speaking of the Javelin Rec site, we actually met out with another org, and we stationed ourselves on opposite sides of the rec site and just met each other in the middle. Well, we actually had an objective. You had to rescue someone that was down in the middle there, but whoever got there first, they were the ones who rescued him or whatever. So something like that, the org events that you can pull off here because of the sand play nature is like that. To me, that's the best.
Axis?
For me, I also agree with Robbins. The Operation Overdrive. I mean, it started with, I'll say they've evolved a long way.
Mm-hmm.
The Overdrive is just the latest of the storied events, and there's been an overreaching narrative ever since Xeno threats kind of been coming into STEM. You have the Xenothreat stuff and the Orison stuff. Then it kind of gets into full scale war with the Operation Overdrive. You have various forms of, combat, espionage things going on in Overdrive that's very different from other missions. I'm kind of hoping we see more layered missions like it. Maybe
Same,
not
yeah.
the complexity, but maybe different situations,
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna say Old Jump Town was the most most function emergent, but stuff like that.
One.
The organic one. But I also say, because this was mentioned in chat as well, Security Post Korea. It has become the most place for emergent gameplay in the game, but CIG needs to really funnel people there. Like most people, there's a full blown heist mission you can do at Security Post Korea. Like not as in depth as something like Payday, but like I know the developers. I actually mentioned that when they were doing like the heist for the data heist, I was like, this seems like a step towards Payday missions, and I know what is his name, Elliot, who was in the chat, was like, I really like Payday, and I'd love to make Payday missions. So it's like, yeah, I know that that's kind of things they want to do. They have a full-blown heist mission, including a boss battle that you have to fight at the end and then get material. And it also spawns a counter mission, so players can come in and try to fight the other players to be able to get them. It's a cool thing, but CIG doesn't really push players that direction much. But, like that's the kind of thing that I'm that sort of place is where I'm looking at. Things like Ghost Hollow are another good example of that too.
Yeah.
So
Ghost Hollow is really good. I mean, one of my missions that my org does is we sit down in these settlements and camp out there, and it can make it really interesting. I haven't been part of it, but they camp out and sit in the ruins and play occupying, basically like an occupying force in a town or a settlement.
Nice.
And it's good prep work for what's coming down the pike eventually. Like with these space stations in Pyro, where you have to occupy them. Yeah. It's good training. But it also has stakes too, because if you don't have a spawn bed, you're done.
Bring an Ursa.
Yeah. All right, we got 3 more questions. Space Game Bro asks, when people talk about server meshing, it's always when is it coming? Like it's only a matter of time. But what if it simply doesn't work when scaled up? If server meshing fails, what do you think CIG has to do to replace it? Sorry for my tumor pessimism, but I'm worried about this. Don't worry about it because we've actually tested it. Have you all tested? Were part of any of the tests for the tech previews for that?
No, I was left out.
I was left out too.
The last one was open. I thought it was open for everybody.
Yeah.
But it was. But
really?
I guess
I couldn't get in.
Maybe it was something like But I played it. I played it in PTU when it was Evocati, and I also played it in June or July. It worked. It didn't just work. It was like surprisingly good. Yeah. There are some issues, but like, yeah, it was like the initial launch was awful, but that's because basically the back end crashed. But then they fixed the problems with the back end, and then they ran it again the next day, and it was butter. Like it was. I have never played Star Citizen in that way, and this was on a 3.22 patch. Yeah. So it was the 3.22 old HUD and jank and all that kind of stuff, but it was still super smooth with the old AI and everything. And it was in a server with 200 people. Now it was a fresh server; it hadn't been going on for days and days and days, but it did have crashes. And when those servers crashed, they crashed and they were brought back up while other people were still playing. So you never had any downtime for the players who weren't in that server and that kind of stuff. But yeah, if the, and I think, Expat's talking about this, if you're talking about scale in terms of the scale of players, It's just a matter of there's going to be a limit at some point.
Yeah.
They will run into the limits, but those limits, they hope, are just going to be the limits of physics rather than the limits of like their abilities. It's more of a, this is what hardware and software and the laws of the universe will allow us to do.
Yeah, and it's probably still going to take another year or two after because they have to get the dynamic portion of it in there.
Yeah.
Than what we're going to see in 4.0. So
It's just one of those things where I know the community is going to be like, okay, at some point we're going to have like big ships like the Idris be its own server. I know there's going to be someone out there who's going to say like, oh, hey, we have 800 people on the server. Let's all go inside this one Idris and see what happens. That's what I worry about. Like, what's going to happen then? Like, how scalable is that?
Yeah. So I was seeing a weird long comment. You tested a very simple version of static meshing and it does not scale well, which is as of yet unknown whether it will. Star Citizen as intended will be in trouble if the vision for Star Citizen hinges on meshing to work at scale. It would require CIG to rethink what Star Citizen looks like. What? Based off of my experience with the developers who were working on meshing, as I talked with them at CitizenCon, they weren't just saying that they think they can get meshing done. They were saying that they were at the point where they were kind of mad they had to do just static. They wanted to skip static altogether and go straight to dynamic. That was how like confident they were in it. And this was before they did extensive testing where like when the most recent ISC about it, they were like, yeah, it worked surprisingly well. Like this was before that. So I think maybe I misread it, and maybe Blaze, maybe you're a member of CIG's development team that I don't know about, but I'm going to go with the developers who I talked to, at least in terms of what they've said before. You know, I don't know. Anyways, it's not something that I would worry too much about at this point, because you have no control over it either way. And if it doesn't work, CIG will pivot to something else. But so far it seems to be working, and there's no indication, as far as I know, that it's not going to work.
Yeah, Expat also made a good point. Like, what happens if one ship's server goes down and the other is still up? Like, if the other one comes back up, but the other one just keeps shooting at it, is the other server just gonna die as soon as it catches up?
That's a good question. There are definitely some edge cases, and that was one of the things that the developers are talking about, was that there's still edge cases they have to work. And I think the really question becomes with that is, how do they scale that in terms of individual servers? But I also think that has more to do with scaling of combat, not scale of size. Mm-hmm. Like they're going to reach a point where they just can't put more people together because it will cause problems. I think that's a different question from what happens if you fire a torpedo into a server that is dead.
Yeah.
So in those cases will need to be worked out over time and that kind of stuff. But it may mean your torpedo disappears and the player disappears, but yeah. All right. Next question comes from Akuma Tenshi Kuro, who asks, I fell asleep listening to the office hours and dreamed of eating chocolate cake in a restaurant with friends while Paul's voice was discussing Star Citizen on the overhead speakers. In that spirit, when will we be able to bake chocolate cake in Star Citizen? And when can Paul get a Redeemer-shaped cake pan? But seriously, chocolate cake when?
2 weeks.
2 weeks, exactly. I mean, I believe that the current system that they're building for space building isn't just base building, it's crafting.
Yeah.
And I really want cooking to be a thing in Star Citizen. Mm-hmm. I'm crazy with that, though. But, you know, what do you think, Access? When do you think we would be able to do something like cooking in Star Citizen?
That's a good question. We don't have pans or pots or anything like that. Or I don't even think we have a working coffee machine, do we?
Yeah, we do.
It used to.
Oh, we do?
Mm-hmm. It just doesn't take resources.
Yeah.
Doesn't take resources. They're gonna have to hook everything up.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
like that's true.
vending machines that don't work. You're gonna have to say insert 5 credits for whatever the heck this item is. I mean, they're gonna have to make vending machines work. That'll be an adventure. Coming soon, vending machines that actually work.
Vending machine
Uh,
empires.
Yes.
I could just see it. Vending wars.
I want CIG to come out with a patch every 4th of July, not 4th of July, every April 1st, every April Fool's Day. That's just something like a patch that's built around something stupid. Like that.
Please
like
give
like
us
like
a
vending
Starbucks.
empires where you can buy a vending machine and put it down
Vending
and gather coins, or like, a fish combat, which is just fishing, but like with
Give us the
beams and stuff
damn
like that.
scrubber. The red scrubber. I want
Yeah,
that.
yeah, cleaning
Clean up
the
program.
galaxy or whatever, and it's just squeegeeing your ship,
Or
Just
so
give-
like King of the Hill, you like fight for like Benny's Henge and Grimhex there.
Yeah.
For like noodles.
Yes, that stuff like that. At the very least, I can see those being fun Arena Commander modules. So
They said it. The Chinese. What was it? Bar
Star Citizen?
Citizen.
Yeah.
Fishing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how is that gonna work?
beams. It's
Yeah.
going to work with
Oh, God,
beams.
not beams.
Sucking up all this fish from the water.
Yes, you're going to take your tractor beam. You're going to find the fish, and you're just going to go and throw them out.
Grenades in
Give
water.
us
Tractor beam
harpoons.
body.
I want a
Torpe-
harpoon gun. Come on.
They could. They
Crossbow.
have it. Okay, so Space Game Bro was clarifying. My question was what if server meshing doesn't work? I don't think you can answer that that it's going to work, because the whole premise of the question is it doesn't work. There's a real possibility with all the new groundbreaking tech, but thanks anyways. The problem is that your premise is already false. It does work. We've played it. I have played it. I streamed it. It works. The question should be, what are the limits of it, and do those limits match what CIG's goals are? Because at a certain point, the game's going to have to stop being a fantasy and start being a thing we play. And that's going to have limitations, especially things like the laws of physics. So yeah. Yeah. I don't know if we could answer that question properly, because no one knows if it's going to work or not. And in that case, not even you. So you wouldn't be able to answer it. So it's just kind of like a weird question
You're
to
gonna
ask.
have to go back to the drawing board and start all over.
Yeah, that would be the answer.
They don't even know.
Which is a nice way of saying it has to work. I mean, yeah, it does have to work. Otherwise, they'll have to redo it, and they'll redo it if they still have the money.
I think if it truly doesn't work, I think that's gonna be a big hit for CIG, because the entire game lives on this.
Yeah. It's important to remember that all of the technology they built up to this point was built for this version of meshing. This is not something new they came up with. So
I think they knew it worked last year when Chris Roberts was crying.
Yeah.
He was relieved.
I understand the question. What happens if it doesn't work is lawsuits. I mean, there's going to be lawsuits at 1.0 anyways, because CIG is releasing a game without 100 systems. People will find a way to sue CIG. Multiple people have already sued CIG and lost. So, there comes a point in the game where you have to learn that you're not in control of the game, and that anything can happen. CIG could go belly up tomorrow, for all we know. You can't live off of hopes and dreams forever. Eventually, something's going to happen, and not everything's going to be the way you hope it is or will be. You just have to control what you can control. That's it. And if you can't control if server meshing works or not, you just kind of go, all right. So, yeah. I'm saying just hypothetically. That's they should be sued. No, I get what you're saying, Destroy. I'm trying to say there's levels of worry that people just need to kind of learn to deal with. All right. Indofro asks, will Star Citizen Live have static server meshing before June 2025? I saved this for the last one, the spicy one. I already talked about this. So I'll start with you, Robin. Does CIG have a chance to get 4.0 out before next year?
I truly hope so, but I'm a little bit pessimistic with CIG deadlines and release and all that kind of stuff, so it wouldn't surprise me at all if it gets postponed to like Q2 2025. They've done this for multiple years, so why not one more?
Casa?
I mean, you look at the roadmap, we've got so many things. Nothing's committed yet for 4.0.
Yeah.
So, I mean, until things get committed, I mean, I think 4.0 can happen before the end of the year, but will everything on that list be committed? Are they going to scale back what 4.0 is? You know, will engineering get dropped, for instance, you know, to June? Who knows? Like, I mean, I'm not going to say it can't happen, you know, but that's CIG for you. If it does happen, I'm not going to be angry about it, but I know there will be plenty of people who will really be pissed if it gets pushed back that far.
Axis?
Yeah, there's been some people getting into my chat, you know, during my streams that have been belly aching about the game a little bit. I mean, I'm not going to say names because, you know, that's not how we roll, but it just seems like there's a general bit of the movement, kind of a downturn of the community's sentiments right now. But I'm really hoping that I'm hopeful that at least it'll make it to Q1, you know, out before June, because remember, that's Invictus, and Invictus would be a messy ass patch if it was 4.0.
I'm going to say I will say the most hopeful thing is that I am glad. I was convinced about a couple months ago, or about a month ago, based off what CIG statements were, that CIG was shooting for 4.0 by CitizenCon. And when I said that, I had the caveat of half of 4.0. The other half of that's not server meshing, pyro, and jump points would get yeeted. And I don't like that, because that's how we got 3.24. And we're all seeing how that turned out. Like, that means that we'd have 4.0 for the next 6 months. And I don't know if I could deal with CIG dragging that out for 6 months rather than just sitting down and working the problem about the issues. And I'm okay that they seem to be moving away from that. I still think they're going to try to shoot for 4.0 before IAE, which would have been my hope as well. Things can happen. Things can go wrong. But the fact that CIG is showing 4.0 content on ISC every week, they're talking about it at an SCL. They're talking about it in their monthly reports. Devs are talking about it on their own on dev posts. All of these things are indications that CIG is actively working on it, and not actively working on it in a we're kind of working on it in the background. It's the phase one. No, like finished ideas and concepts ready to go. They've had multiple tests of server meshing, so that we know that works. They've had engineering tests, at least early engineering versions. So all of these things seem to be like that they're in the game and being worked on, if not finished, and being moved on to other editions or other iterations down the line. So I don't think the issue right now is will 4.0 be done? I think 4.0 as a patch will definitely be done before the end of the year. The question is, will it release before the end of the year?
I don't think so.
I think it will, but go ahead.
I feel like with the lack of preview channels, especially after Jared spoke about it more last couple weeks, I think he said like in a couple of weeks we'll be doing more preview stuff, and there has been none. I don't know what's stopping them, and it kind of worries me that there's no preview preview channels at all.
Yeah.
Since like what, February was the last?
June.
June.
Yeah, but it was like late June, early July. That was the server meshing where they let it open for everybody. Yeah. And the fact that they said there were going to be more preview tech previews, and then 2 weeks ago Jared said 3 times in an SCL that they were planning on more tech previews. Like, they're definitely planning on more tech previews. And you're right, that does indicate CIG is not ready for 4.0 to go live. And I think that's the difference. And I think that's the problem that a lot of people need to kind of work out in their brain, because it's that problem where CIG says 4.0 is done. What they mean is 4.0 is completed building. It's not ready to go out.
Yeah.
And that is there lies in the issue, is that to an average consumer, 4.0 being done doesn't mean it's done. For them, it means it's out. It's released. It's ready for them to play.
The product has been made, but it hasn't shipped yet.
Yes. And that becomes the big question. I don't think any of us are prepared. Not even CIG is prepared to answer that, because we don't know if 4.0 comes out and it's a dumpster fire beyond dumpster fires, and there are just some significant fundamental issues with at scale of all of the players flying around and everything, like the leaving a server, a shard up for a week, and all the garbage that come up there. So like all of those sorts of issues, nobody knows what's going to happen, not even CIG. They can plan for it, but we don't know. So will Star Citizen have server meshing before June 2025? Personally, yes, of course it will be. Will it be at June 2025? I think it's going to be before the end of this year, because I think CIG's reputation rides on it. And I think if push comes to shove, CIG will push a broken, buggy, burning mess, because they need to hit dates. Because
we have one now.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah.
They are completely willing to do that. So, well, the question should be, will it work well before June 2025? And I think no. I don't think 4.0 will work well until 4.1. So, yeah, I think that's a good way of ending it. Thank you for coming out. Thank you, Access. Thank you, Costa. Thank you, Robin, for coming out and hanging out. Yeah. Hopefully y'all enjoyed it. Hopefully y'all enjoy this, and hopefully the chat, you enjoyed this, and viewers, you've enjoyed this. If you did, make sure you follow all their social medias, Access0096 on the social medias, Casa Black and Robin Blitz on social medias as well. Their YouTubes and Twitches and all sorts of other things.
Not OnlyFans.
Not OnlyFans? You don't have an OnlyFans?
No OnlyFans, no.
Not yet.
I was promised OnlyFans. Did Nightcop lie to me?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh my.
I've joked that I'll open up an OnlyFans, and it's literally just going to be pictures of fans. Like different types of fans that I post every day. Thank you all for hanging out. As I've said in the past, if you enjoyed this, make sure you hit that follow button on Twitch, twitch.tv/TheAstroPub, and the subscribe button on YouTube if you're watching this well after the fact. Like the video, subscribe for more content, hit the little bell icon to be notified when these release, and comment down below. If you like this idea of me doing 2 separate videos, separated out by, a couple of days, and not just the VOD, let me know. It'd be good to know. And we'll be live Saturdays at 5 p.m., 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, on twitch.tv/TheAstroPub and youtube.com/TheAstroPubLive. So you can come down and ask your questions live to whichever cast we have on then. And thank you for watching. Love your faces. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.